And we're back. A lot happening here, and we want to say hello to Chris Gordy from pretty familiar website to all of you. As I think I think it's the first time we've ever talked to Chris. Locked on SEC. Chris, good day to have you on. How are you, first of all?
It's good, Paul, and I apologize for calling you the oldest member at SEC Media Days last week. I think I found a few older people than you.
I'd like to meet them. But anyway, um, I would I'm really curious because ACC Media Days and obviously Big Ten has started, and it just seems like everybody is on message, and the message is take a shot at the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, we need to take a step back and realize, like, the SEC, okay, yes, it's been 2 straight years since they have not won a title, but they still won 13 of the last 19. Like, the king is not dead. And it hasn't all just been Bama and Georgia. You had LSU in there. You had Auburn get one. You had Florida. The ACC has as many championships as the Big Ten in the last 20 years, and that's 3. So, yeah, it's a little crazy. And then Colin Cowherd getting out there and spurting off stuff saying that Big Ten cities just have more money. He listed Los Angeles in there. I'm sorry, Paul. I was in LA a few months ago. They'd rather spend money on the Dodgers and the Lakers than go watch a college football game. I mean, college football is basically non-existent out there. So, look, the last person you want to go to for college football takes, in my opinion, is Colin Cowherd. That's like going to Legend for financial advice. You just don't do it.
I would actually trust Legend more with my 401k than I would Colin Cowherd on the state of college football. And I remember it was about 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was, I landed at LaGuardia one night and it had the sign, "Welcome to Big Ten country." And I swear it was midnight. I couldn't think of, like, who's the Big Ten school? And then finally somebody reminded me it was Rutgers. Chris, you could walk down Fifth Avenue and you couldn't find a Rutgers fan if you were dressed in the scarlet mascot, whatever that is.
That's what's crazy about Cowherd's take was he said Big Ten money it's Hollywood, it's tech, it's financial centers. And he listed New York linking to Rutgers. I can't find one Rutgers fan in New York City who wants to write a check for NIL. Then he listed Chicago with Northwestern. Like, Northwestern is 62nd in recruiting right now behind Kentucky and Vanderbilt. So let me know when they start becoming a power. I mean, it's nuts. So, and he said the SEC is run on car dealership money. And then I start thinking, well, at Auburn, we got Yellowwood. At LSU, you got Todd Graves Raising Cane's. You got Jerry Jones and the Tyson Chicken folks at Arkansas. I think the SEC is doing pretty well financially when it comes to money and backers. But the biggest difference in SEC country, Paul, is we don't need one tech bro to write a check, right? We're better than any conference at mobilizing our fan bases to collectively come together and raise money as a group. And the Big Ten doesn't have that. I mean, is Minnesota or Illinois or Maryland, are they going to get big fan bases to come together and write checks for the school for NIL? It just doesn't happen.
And I hate to educate Colin Cowherd, but the most influential CEO in America out in Cupertino, California, Tim Cook, head of Apple, has a degree from Auburn.
He's pretty good. Yeah, he's got a little bit of money. And look, again, it's everybody's jumping on the SEC because they've had 2 years of not winning a title. It's not like we haven't almost been there. Like, he says Texas clobbered Ohio State clobbered Texas. I was at that game on the Cotton Bowl on the field. Texas was down 7 with 3 minutes to go trying to punch it in. Now, they fumbled it and went the other way, but they were right there. He says, Alabama couldn't move the ball on Michigan. They still went to overtime, right? Had almost 300 yards of offense. So we're trying to rewrite history here as if the SEC is just non-existent in the last few years in the college football playoff. And look, we talked to Greg Sankey last week. He thinks this is the year the SEC will get back in there. Somebody from this group is going to play for and hopefully win a title. But all these people buying into Penn State, Paul, like, the next time James Franklin wins a big game, it'll be the first time. I mean, he beat SMU and Boise in the playoff last year, but frankly, I think Vanderbilt could have done that. He's 0-8 in his last 8 games against Ohio State. He lost a bowl games in recent years to Ole Miss and Arkansas. So forgive me if I'm not buying into Penn State and their hype.
I don't even want to talk. You're on such a roll, Chris. Chris Gordy joining us. Chris, let's talk a little bit about what you do see within the confines of the SEC. I know nobody cares about this league. I know Colin Cowherd's going to be too busy, getting ready for Northwestern Purdue this year. But there's so much talk about the top. But in that middle pack of schools, which includes about 5 to 6, After you talk about Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, where do you go to find someone who could break through?
Well, that's the bigger problem is, when we talk about conference dominance, is it conference cannibalization where anybody could beat anybody on any given Saturday? To me, that's the sign of a strong conference. It means that you're not top heavy. You don't have just one team and then all the rest. So to me, I look at that middle of the pack and look, there's a lot of unknowns. John Mateer's got a lot of skins on the wall at Washington State. How does that translate to Oklahoma and the SEC? If it translates, Oklahoma's going to be a problem. Of course, Auburn, we know their wide receiver room is stacked. Is Jackson Arnold, do we see the guy who was the 5-star recruit that Oklahoma went after, or do you see the guy that kind of had the up and down roller coaster last year? So there's a lot of those teams in the middle of the pack that we're waiting to see, how does it translate? I mean, Arkansas's got one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country in Taylon Green. All he's got to do is clean up his mistakes. He's got Bobby Petrino, one of the best offensive minds, calling the plays for him. If he can cut out those interceptions and fumbles, I think Arkansas could be in the thorn of a side of a lot of people. So there's a lot of teams right there in the middle right there that we don't know what they're going to be, but I could certainly make a case for 10-2 for any of those teams.
Certainly, you're pretty familiar with LSU. I want to go there for a second because that's the school that you get so many different opinions. It's easy to talk about Nussmeier. It's easy to talk about all the things that Brian Kelly has done, but they also have, in my mind, the most difficult opener. Sorry about that, Ohio State. But talk about the variables for this game, because if it doesn't go LSU's way, and quite frankly, they likely will not be favored, then suddenly everything starts being ratcheted up on Brian Kelly.
Yeah, you talk about tough non-conference games. It doesn't get any tougher than this. And by the way, I need to point out, Michigan 2 years ago, their non-con, they played ECU, UNLV, and Bowling Green and went on to win the title. Ohio State last year played Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall and went on to win the title. So clearly that playoff committee has no interest in you playing a tough non-conference. All they care is that you win. So Brian Kelly, let's go schedule, the Citadel or somebody like that week 1 and get an easy W. But they got to go on the road. They got to play Clemson. It's going to be a monster matchup. Klubnik versus Nussmeier, two of the most talented quarterbacks out there. And, it's a tough argument to make, Paul, to say, hey, maybe if LSU loses a close one, it won't ding them. I think it does. I think the committee has shown, anything more than 2 losses and they're not going to consider you. So to me, it's a must win for Brian Kelly heading into year 4. We know the history. The last 3 coaches at LSU all did it by year 4. Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Ogeron all won national championships. Look, LSU fans aren't even asking Brian Kelly to win a championship this year. Just get to the playoff. Take that next step. He said it last week, hands down, this is the most talented team he's had since he's been in Baton Rouge. And so it is, you would say, put up or shut up time. It's put up or shut up time for Brian Kelly. And look, I think they have a loaded deck. I think they have as good a chance as anybody to go 10-2 and make the playoff this year.
Chris, in terms of just this moment in time, I'm dizzy listening to all the commissioners talk today. The CFP conversation seems to be about as deadening to my ears as the talk of NIL legislation. But where do you see it going? Because it doesn't seem like the SEC is going to 9 games. So I don't think the commissioner of the SEC cares whether we go from 12 to 16, but everyone else seems to.
Well, that's the thing. And I asked Greg Sankey about this last week. We put so much emphasis on this tough non-conference, playing one really good Power 5 non-conference game, and we've got a ton of those this year. I mean, even I would say, Auburn going on the road at Baylor, that's a tough one. Good on them to schedule it, because you could just schedule 4 cupcakes and be done with it. Basically, if you look at the strength of schedule last year, the SEC dominates, the strength of schedule of the Big Ten when we look at their 9 conference games versus the SEC's 8. I would just say this from Greg Sankey. We can do away with that tough non-conference game and play 9 conference games. But if you look at it, okay, so LSU would lose Clemson in the opener, and then they pick up, I don't know, you want to give them Mississippi State? Does that make their schedule that much tougher? You know what I mean? So I don't know if 9 conference games really strengthens your schedule all that much, because they make such a concerted effort to schedule these tough non-conference games. But, the rivalries may go away. We may lose Clemson versus South Carolina. We may lose Kentucky versus Louisville if they're forced to go to the 9 conference games, because it's just making it, that much harder on yourself. And as we know, most coaches are looking at 6-6. You want to get to a bowl game. I think it's what Hugh Freeze said a few weeks ago, right? Just get to a bowl game. That's the expectation. So, I'm with you. It's the future does look like they may stick with 8 games for now. I just want to see more variance. I mean, when we go a decade with, Texas A&M not going to Athens, I mean, we got to get more variety in the schedule where we can get to some of these opposing, venues more often.
Well, cut you Freeze a little bit of slack. He was thinking about how many Ryder Cup points he had at that moment in time. Anyway, Chris Gordy, an outstanding conversation. It was great to see you last week in Atlanta, even though you made me feel older than I really am. We will talk to you soon. It was a fantastic conversation. Listen to his podcast, Locked on the SEC. It's one of the great ones out there. We'll be back with more of your phone calls right after this.